heat up all your houses and everything, right? It's scary. Sea level acceleration, that's basically what it is. Acceleration, I know you all hope that it's a very common physics term, right? You have a velocity and then you just change it with time, you estimate. If it's increasing positive, then it's acceleration, right? So, without further ado, next. It is indeed, it's extremely bad sign in my humble opinion, okay? And we are going to be very specific, it's referring to this United Nations report again. And in fact, I already anticipated with the next report. The previous report was called AR5, right? Assessment Report 5. I'm already anticipating AR Report 6, which is coming out in 2022. Because there's already abundant evidence that one shall not do any science. You know why? The sea level is going to accelerate. Next. So we start with this very, very humble quote by somebody called Moses Obama. Moses says, this was the moment when we see the rise of the ocean begin to slow and our planet begin to heal. I think what the man is saying is that indeed, if you were to cut down the carbon dioxide, you know what happened? The sea level is going to go down or go stable. These are the people who actually think that the whole planet system, as complex as it is one of the most complex subjects and highly misunderstood. That you can actually adjust the carbon dioxide up and down, and that's what you can do to the system. You want a little bit warmer, you know, increase it. You want it cooler, you turn it down. If you want the polar bear, a lot more polar bear, you decrease it a lot more. If you want a lot, you just, you know, whatever. It's crazy as hell actually. It's really false notion. Okay? And then not only that, to the point where data are being manipulated. This sea level stuff, you will see it right now. Thank you. So I guess, you know, they hate President Trump or things like that. Childish stuff. Next. The number one proponent of this sea level scare is a man called Reverend James Hansen. I keep calling him Reverend because these are very religious people who actually treat science as some kind of very convenient stuff that they will actually can mess around with, which I really, really don't like actually. Because these people never study science actually. They are doing things that is very outrageous. So here's the example. The visionary man has said that the global sea level will rise by 5 meters, 16.5 feet by 2100. I know it's still a long way from now, but I hope that my ancestry will wait there, my kids and grandchildren will wait and check that number for all of us. Okay, next. You notice some kind of a Russian collusion going on? This is Al Gore saying that it's 16.4 exactly. Just the way that Hansen said. It's just telling you that they are kind of colluding with each other. Hello, Al Gore. Hello, Jim Hansen. What's going on? What the sea level going to be? 2100? Well, 16.4 feet. Okay. Manhattan going to be gone. Goodbye. Okay. All right. I'm not going to buy a house. So this is the official report and data showing in that particular figure. 13.21. Sea level 1700 until now. And please, units is millimeter. Okay? Later I explain what millimeter means in a minute. But be patient. It's going up and then, ooh, it's going to go down by 2100. I just want to tell you, these people is a serious joker, in my humble opinion. I don't want to politicize things, but this is politicization of science. Who started the fight? They, not me. Next. Because you can't do that, that's the point. Then the next one, don't even look at the number, 16.5, 40 feet. But now, they forecast to 2300. Because you know why? 2100 is not scary enough. Next, let's go higher. 10,000 years ahead. I mean, are they kidding me? By the way, this paper is published in Science Magazine. Y'all like a Science Magazine, right? The world's most prestigious, the most important magazine ever exists on this planet or this universe. Because these people are so intelligent. They can actually warm the ice sheets and make it really hot and then melt every damn thing, you know? It's just crazy stuff actually. Can you believe this kind of disproportionate kind of stuff? No matter what they claim it is. It's just madness actually. Utter madness. Next. So it is a false scare because they're trying to say that, you know, if sea level is accelerated. Basically that's what they say. You notice that they have to make that claim. Because all we know is that if you use a tide gauge data to measure sea level changes near the coastal region, all you see is that sea level has been constantly rising. But first of all, you have to remember how far back can we go. It's actually been rising since the last glacial maximum, 21,000 years ago, guys. Okay? And then they say that they have to accelerate. You know why the acceleration is needed, right? Because men come along, spill all this carbon dioxide, right? And therefore, it has to accelerate. They have to have the change of the rate of change, of the sea level change. If it's not, it will make the CO2 look bad. That's all they say. Okay? Thank you. Next. So this is the kind of stuff that they are doing. If you think that you can get away publishing paper like this by Jim Hansen, by basically using tight gauge data, I'm glad that Ronan has introduced you to mixing apple and oranges. This is tight gauges data. They say, oh, from here to here, 1930.6 millimeter per year. Remember, number. I think, let me not emphasize what the number is until the punchline later. 1.4 here from this period. I don't care the number. 1993 to 2015. Boom! Accelerate. Oh, they are so right. I'm so wrong. I should go home now because I'm such a bad guy. Refuse to listen to these people. Are you kidding me? Of course, this is junk stuff, okay? Absolute junk. If you think this is worthy or anything, and this is published in peer review system. This is the kind of stuff they are showing me that they expect me to take it sitting down. No, sir. Next. It's wrong actually, because they're mixing apple and orange, first of all. Oh yeah, split pen. Sorry. Next. So, what happened when you do such a thing? Really, it's a bad thing actually, right? What happened? Next. You win $1.3 million. That's a lot of money. This guy win prizes. That's okay. It's a very, really, if you love anything about science, this is very bad in the sense that, you know what? It's telling you a message. Telling all the young children. In science, you know, you can just be using emotion, you can doing all this other stuff, colorful stuff. Being a good speaker, not telling the truth, and in fact telling lies is very good because you get rewarded. And that is wrong. Okay, next. As you can see, I'm fired up, so all you have to do is just wait for the sea level acceleration and you're going to get that guy. Next. This is what I mean by sea level change. If you study sea level story, at least we know that during last glacial maximum, most of the ice stays on the land, water bring it to the land, cryosphere, and the snow line, the ice sheets actually in North America or in Scandinavia, there are really huge amount of sea ice. I mean, 2 miles thick of ice, moving as far south as Delaware, right? And that's why the sea level got low by 120 meter. Guys, think about that number. It's pretty tall, right? 120 meter up there, right? You multiply by about 3 point something, so you can see 300 feet or more, right? Next. And then, and the same man around now is doing that. All I'm giving you is that, during a rapid phase in which this ice that is on land is melted. By the way, any SUV or any kind of stuff over there, or Martians coming around, spilling CO2 doing that? CO2 could never ever do that, believe me. I'm sorry, there's a very famous physicist by the name of Steve Chu at Stanford, I believe he's still there now, win a Nobel Prize and so on and so forth. Constantly using those nonsense about carbon dioxide going to melt the Greenland ice sheets. I happened to be in one of the meetings that I saw him and I asked him, can you show me how? Oh, he said no, and then he go left and right talking. I don't know, what is he talking about? I'm just asking him, show me how you do a CO2 with, let's say, 15 micron wavelengths or infrared radiation and melt the ice sheets. I like to know that. You make the claim, I like to know. Tell me. Because I really want to be wrong, that I'm being stupid and I say that it cannot happen. Okay? He didn't answer me, so what can I do? Believing him and begging him to explain things to me? Next. You guys should ask the same question. By the way, ask him. Don't ask me. Make that claim. Next. So here's just the point. I mean, in terms of rate of change, you couldn't exceed it. Remember, we saw 1 to 3 millimeters, and we're talking about 50 millimeter per year kind of change, right? During those very rapid melting rate. Just to tell you that nature really can change in a very large and small way, however you want it. But all I'm saying is that, please have some context, have some understanding about what change means, and that's why understanding the cause is kind of helpful before you're actually instituting some kind of policy. I hate policy. I don't know what policy. I'm not making policy. I'm just telling you the facts, right? And the amount, you can imagine, the quote there is to say that if you melt it at that rate, this is equivalent to 1.5 and 3 times the Greenland ice sheets melting, okay? That's during that time. Next. And one fact that is very highly misunderstood about studying sea level change is that we have something very simple, even known by a very famous mathematician by the name of Gauss, right? That's just based on just the rotation and then a different gravitational field, because things are uneven in the Earth's, the solid Earth, right? That from the tallest to the lowest deviation of this, because of different gravitational potential, you can see it's down 350 feet, up 280 feet. This is the kind of reference point that we do not actually know well. We don't have a system to monitor and measure this thing properly, and these people want us to talk about something that they can detect down to 1 and even 0.1 millimeter per year. Okay, next I'll explain why you cannot do that. This is what I mean, by the way. Another way of framing this is that when I give about this talk, I say that this is all the 6, what you call experiment that cannot fail, because they invested too much into it. A lot of money, a lot of prestigious, a lot of all this Academy of Science, all these things, which I don't give a damn about, in my humble opinion. It's just crazy stuff. So you can see, quote like this, I just simply want to show you the complexity of studying sea level. Okay, I have to confess that at first I thought I can make a statement about sea level change at the end of this talk. I actually felt like I don't understand a damn thing. But I want to tell you why I don't understand anything. But I want to show you what they say just cannot be true. Okay, so you can see, you talk about tide, coastal dynamics, sea level change and all that. So you can see these famous poets from the Roman poets that say that I have myself seen what was one the most solid ground disappear into the sea and heard the land risen out of the sea, right? So next please, David. So now let's go to this simple way that people say, because science and technology has a lot of prestigious, by the way, built by very, very careful step of not being exaggerating or telling lies and all kinds of stuff, So satellite altimetry is very simple, right? You have this satellite going around. You have an instrument that is actually not passive, which means you're not just sitting there watching stuff, right? You're actually sending radar, okay? Shooting radar down. You're flying at about 1,300 kilometers up. You're shooting radar out, you try to bounce and see this signal bouncing back. Okay? And I'll explain to you what wavelength they're using that is very, very key in terms of this study. So they cover, that was the long data, so from 1993 until now. But next please. And now let's look a bit of a specification. According to this guide, we can actually resolve the changes. You are trying to measure the sea level height, okay? The thing changing. First of all, you must avoid all the coastal region. So that's what I mean by apple and oranges. Because they could never get that, because the radar signal is very confused by the land versus the ocean signal. So most of it are referring to more open ocean, right? And they can say something like they can resolve up to plus or minus 4.7 centimeter. But the most crucial flaw that I want to tell you is, I think next, it's actually the actual wavelength they're using, that they're shooting out this signal to try to detect. So the claim is that they can measure sea level change up to plus or minus 1 millimeter per year. I haven't come to the punchline what 1 millimeter means yet. But look at the wavelength in which that actually the radar is operating at. Different type of ray band. I don't need the technical term KU band, all this nonsense. It's 2.3 centimeter the wavelength, or another one is 5.6. So next. This is what 1 millimeter means. This guy telling you that you can do that we can detect up to that. Just think about it. Really? But you can see the crucial flaw. The crucial flaw is that you are trying to wave, no matter how many times you pulse it, actually they thought, oh, I can reduce this quote-unquote statistical errors and see the bouncing, I can correct for all this, correct for that, however intelligent they think there is. But the wavelength is at 2.3 centimeter or 23 millimeter. They are trying to resolve things down to millimeter. It's a very serious proposition, okay? That's partly why I do not trust any of their number. Next. Well, I'm not saying I'm so smart, by the way. Never ever do one sit up here and claim that we're so smart, right? It's really about something that I don't understand, right? So, really, can you do this? I don't think so. Do you understand? Your wavelength of the thing is actually quite large, and you're trying to say that you can resolve this skill. So let me put a proposition how you can detect 1 millimeter per year. Maybe not yet, yeah, just a very quick one. This is about how the whole thing is robbed by media, robbed by all these prestigious. Here's one of the famous group called the Smithsonian. By the way, I work kind of belong to them. I'm a Smithsonian, but I'm not supposed to say I come here. By the way, please, I'm not coming here as an individual, or else I'll get fired. Who knows what? What they are saying is that this is the kind of journalism that you have nowadays. They literally can write something out. I'm not actually having fun, picking fun on people making mistakes, but it tells you that the level in which that the delusion is so dangerous that they printed things like this. This lady said that it's 1/10 of an inch each year, and therefore it's going to make Galveston, New York, and all these things disappear underwater in the next 20 years. Please, come on, it's simple math, isn't it? Even Al Gore know how to do this, you know, fuzzy man. George Bush know how to do this, politically left and right, who knows what. It's 2 inches. But to get 1 milliliter per year, this is what you need to do. The constraint to do this. If you want to measure 1 milliliter per year, you need to do this in terms of the change of the ocean volume of the mass. Think about that. It's about 3 times 10 to the minus 8 per year, right? It's pretty high precision you need to achieve. If you want to do it in temperature, you got to do it down to 10 to the minus 4 degrees Celsius per year. You want to do it in terms of salinity, that is the salinity unit, PSU, practical salinity unit. It's pretty difficult to do this, by the way, globally, right? I really hope you're convinced that they are really technocrat, or what you call the scientism. The act of talking about science all day long, actually, without doing any science at all. This is the kind of stuff that is very common this day and really bothers me the most. Thank you. Next. So, that's the assumption that you actually can do this, right? Next. And when it comes down to what actually the data measure, here's one of the examples that, by the way, this is a very secret paper. It's volume 33, S1, whatever issues. This is the kind of graph that after all this talk about sea level change by satellite, so on and so forth, I don't think that the paper has been read by more than a few hundred people. For a simple reason. A lot of this graph is very rare. You are so lucky to catch this. So what I show you is that the satellites start measured by this thing by the French and US JPL record called the Topaz Poseidon. They have a particular standard, so they measure the sea level change. Then, when it's about to finish, you have to fly another one, Jason 1. They're all carrying these same altimeters. Jason 2 is an exact twin copy of Jason 1. And can they measure more or less the same thing? Maybe not, right? Because they're offset by so much. Okay? And what they're telling you is that, please believe me, don't do anything. Let me combine the data. Next. That's the difference of these biases. A lot of these are very serious stuff because we want to know what the hell is going on, right? If you cannot even get this right. And remember, Jason 2 and Jason 1, they're twin, basically. Next. And they say I can put them all together and show you a graph like this. This is the kind of 2 to 3 millimeter per year they're showing you. Okay. Well, of course you can say I cry, I did this and did that, but science is about not emotion. When you show stuff like this, I say, maybe not, And then, not only that, they are fighting to add another 0.3 because they say, it's the ocean volume because of ice changes, they will change the shape, so you're going to add 0.3 millimeter per year. These people are really, really mad, okay? Next. That's why I say X. No, I'm not going to believe this. It's crazy stuff. Next. Again, if it's were to be just Willie Soon, then of course it's bad news because you know why? I'm not so smart. The really smart guy is basically Professor Carl Wunsch. If you go into the field of oceanography, again, I'm not invoking prestige. Carl Wunsch is really smart, he's good. He knows his number, he knows his physics and mathematics and all that, right? He actually write in his paper that he really had to say this. That it remained possible that the database, which means talking about the altimeter data, the satellite altimetry data, is insufficient, right, to do this. However, as disappointing as the conclusion may be, right? I'm just telling you, the world foremost oceanographer, making statement like this, no wonder they don't like that when we quoted him, you know what I'm saying? Next. Well, I hope he retracts if he doesn't like it, too bad. Don't write it in the paper. And then, well, could it be that this is only the problem related to just these 3 sets that I'm talking about? There are a lot of examples, by the way. Of course, today I'm not going to bore you with all the examples. Every single one of them, I did a much longer 1-hour talk. If you want to see, ask me or ask Terry. Next. Here's another expensive one. This is about 2.3 billion euros. It's called the NV set. Okay? I say, yeah, another disappointment. These are all the experiments that cannot fail, my friend. Because you know why? They have invested so much. It has to be that way. Next. Here's the reason. I'm really crazy. I mean, you can call me crazy all you want. I actually track them every day. Okay? With some of these guys, we track them every day. April 6 changed to April 10. It was 1.4 millimeter per year. So every set is a bit independent from all these other, the one that I showed you. And then boom, by April 12, it goes up this way. Excuse me, why? Right? Next. Yeah, you know why? Because they say it has to agree with Jason 1. That's all the reason is. You can talk all you want, now black and blue, it's all the same thing. They just say, well, because I'm measuring too low, the other guy measuring high, okay, I'm going to agree with that. I'm not simplifying this problem. I will show you another example. It's just outrageous they are doing things like this. But how many of you heard this? How many of those guys who disagree with us, please stay, try to understand what's going on. Can you really stand for this? Oh, they say maybe I'm manipulating. I'm not manipulating anything. It's what they are doing. Here's what the adjusted and unadjusted. Unadjusted is 0.8. They adjusted and make it 2.3. Notice the number is not 3. They make a lot of effort to make it 3, okay? Next. Here's another way to measure the sea level changes using gravity. The experiment, very precise experiment. It's good that they try, by the way. Unfortunately, I say this is another failed experiment for this simple reason. Next. So, this is what the main result. By the way, this is another one of those very rare ones that you can find that they publish the raw data versus the adjusted one. So when they measure the data, they started about 2003, they got this raw data. Is that sea level rising? No, right? It's flat. Okay? I don't care about the plus or minus nonsense, right? And then they say, well, it has to correct by this. I call this correction by glacial isostatic adjustment. Okay? Well, I don't care what it is, by the way. I just want to change it that way. Next. And guess what happened? Actually, a friend of mine worked very hard to digitize this data. By the way, here's another feature of this way of conducting science. If you even dare to ask them, can you send me the data? Professor Ellenbrook, please ask them sometime to send you data. If you can get it, please share with us. How can you do science like this? After we pay all the money, and actually I pay money, I'm a taxpayer. You pay all the money. This is showing you that, okay, the same graph, this is the actual, when you digitize the data, you know what they do? You didn't do any adjustment. All you need to do is that I need to adjust this by exactly 2 millimeter per year from the raw to go up. It shows you that the blue line and the dotted line, which is taking from the blue at 2 millimeter per year in the long-term rate. This is called data adjustment, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really terrible.
It's called fudging the data.
And then later they say this data said it, this data said that. I don't know, how many of you look at this data? I mean, those experts who claim all this and that and all this stuff, did they actually study the data? This man here, he's a very good guy. He studied very carefully. You know, we always get into this without knowing what the hell the answer is going to be. Who cares what the answer is going to be, right? You really only need to study it objectively. That's all I'm saying. Next. So again, for the gravity, the GRACE, what a nice name, GRACE gravity experiment is failed in my opinion. Because they actually admitted, because people don't believe me, they say that, the mass is decreasing. Sea level rise, sea level up, sea level down, I don't know what is this. But according to GRACE, you were here, by the way, because that was like published in 2009. They say 10 years now, we must have improved. Show me if you change anything in your experimental design. It's nonsense. These people are very good broker players. They think that science is a joke. They think that all you need to do is bluff. Man, if you're wrong, you just get even more wrong. Wrong. More wrong. Holy cow, man. How can you end or justify these things, Next, sorry, too much of this political nonsense I'm talking about. So, really, I want to say that please remember, in science, one should never be afraid of being wrong. This is a failed science experiment in my view. This satellite altimetry and gravitometry, whatever words you use, to measure and detect sea level change, failed. Okay, it doesn't matter exactly what Michael was saying, right? It's like Richard Feynman said, the great physicist. It doesn't matter how beautiful you are, how lucky you are, how all this and that. if your theory doesn't agree with the observation, what is wrong? Go. So, last small little part which I kind of don't have too much confidence, but I'll show you what at least the best of the state of understanding. Because to measure sea level change, the most traditional stuff is actually put tide gauge around sea coast. This is traditionally for purposes of basically sailing and all this other stuff, right? Tide gauge is really simple, right? It's just a tube with a thing. You're measuring relative sea level change, okay? You can at least account locally. But if the land is sinking, the land is moving, then you have to work on another problem or correction. And then if the tide is coming, you have to work on another problem. Sorry, I really have to tell you all this because this is the kind of problem that we are worried about every single day. Where all those guys are just left and right correcting whatever they want without understanding how the data come about. How can you do science in that manner? You know, are you joking? And then you say I'm the bad guy because I want to study what it is. Next. So the best understanding is from all this tide gauge data all over the world, if you actually statistically combine them. So 159 pretty much long-term data, which means you have at least 50 years of the data length. If you combine them together, just using something very simple called median in statistical nomenclature is 1 millimeter per year. If you use a different weighting and averaging, you get all these numbers. It's clearly something of the order of 1 millimeter per year, right? This is all I'm saying. It's just raw without understanding, without even checking more details. I told you I have lack confidence because all of a sudden I realized that in all this measurement, they just keep taking data. You just hire people to go data. All this, nobody, no scientist ever go measure this thing, okay? Because it's so mundane, right? Plus that every time when you come to a project that requires time, like NSF, I used to study the sun-like star, you know, all this time. Nobody gonna pay us money to study the star for 50 years. But we need the 50 years data. So we beg everybody to keep the project going, do all this work, but nobody even cares about the science. That's how crazy the world is. And then IPCC claim is 1.8, double of that. So I used to believe in 1.8, by the way. And then until I look into it, it's not possible. Even 1.8, I don't believe in it. But you can say, oh, you're just fussy, 1 and 1.8, you know, or 2. It's crazy actually. The whole thing is madness. How much is sea level change? Next. Yeah, so exaggerate by at least 50%. Next. Go. Yeah, so that's basically, no, that's what I mean. It's of the order of 1. To the best of what I understand. I don't know what it means actually. All I know is that it doesn't change as much as they say. Next. So, but haven't we seen this number before, right? Next. Actually, we have seen this before. If you want to believe in IPCC, IPCC has seen this thing. It's in the specific chapter, you know, third assessment report, 2001. That page, chapter 11. They actually say it's of the order of 7.7. Oh, do we now go back home and then say that, yeah, we all agree, right? IPCC, no, that's old result and all that, right? You cannot take this back, by the way. It's a bit of a joke, but next. So, yeah, that's a very funny thing. Now I give you a little punchline about this. Measure the sea level rise at 1 millimeter per year. So, if you count that number, you add the number out, you don't do any fuzzy math, it's about 4 inches in a century. And then, other popular one is saying 1 to 3 foot. There's a very interesting guy that I saw. He's a comedian. He actually gave a very nice joke. He said that, you know, if the sea level were to be rising in 4 inches in 100 years and you don't know how to step back, you deserve to die. Okay, I think that's about it. Next. I think no more. That's it. It's enough. Yeah, no, fine. Last one. I think, but don't worry about anything, man. We're going to give you the genetic. You're going to grow this back so you're going to be able to, alright. Doesn't matter what sea level is. Thank you. Okay, question quickly. Maybe then we'll go on because it's a bit late. I don't mind. I don't sleep.
I have a technical question.
Please.
Because both you've talked about it and some of the questions of computers that's going to make a significant difference in having a good computer model.
Okay, I think let me answer that because let me answer very quickly. There's an estimate that's been done by my friend Professor Christopher Essex. By the way, he's the best applied mathematician and studying things now. He estimates that if you were to go down, like, let's say anything from millimeter scale to this large hemispheric scales, right, 10,000 kilometers, right? If you want to account for all these scales and then you want to compute, let's say, 10 years of the integration, if you calculate the numbers with proper grid size, right, down to millimeter, yes, you will require 10 to the 20 years. of computing time, right? The problem is not computer, in my humble opinion, it's physics. As this guy, this brilliant man was talking about, a lot of these different assumptions have never been checked and all that. But we can always do shortcut in science, obviously. It's measurements, actually, the data. They say data, right? I say data. But it's about that, really, in my humble opinion. I think.
So you think that using the right assumptions and doing a good job of checking the models, that we currently have access to computers that would support a meaningful model. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I can create a different type. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily need the nonsense that they actually created, in my opinion. Because I have done all kinds of modeling myself. I created so many versions of climate models, but in the way that you can actually study the physics. Most of the problem turns out to be not the individual sand or all these trees or cloud covers and all that. It's about the interactions, the physics, the skill involved. And actually, external forcing is very important and all that stuff. So it's really related to all of that. Okay? Okay. Yeah. Well, Debbie, go first, since you work so hard.
Yeah, you know, the whole One Bay Area plan, the Plan 2040, which we tried to stop here in the Bay Area, is based on IPCC, man-made global warming, seas are rising, and dramatically over the years, the Bay Area is going to change in that we all become a major region with borders, city and county lines disappearing under a comprehensive smart growth plan based on these plans. There is huge impact on this, Willie.
Yes.
So you as a scientist, how are you, like obviously a lot of the people have left. It's not important for them, or they've got other things to do. I don't know what my question is, except for it's something about how do we get through to people that this just isn't an argument between temperature and sea rise. It's much bigger than that. It's all across this nation. Smart growth plans are being based on what we know. I've been to the United Nations meetings and I've heard them lie. They've lied about the California fires, and so.
I admit with you, I know Debbie for a long time. I admit there's no bias there. But the point is that Debbie is referring to this thing called the UN Agenda 2030. It's very pervasive. These are stuff that coming to your school, kids' school, they're doing all kinds of stuff that is really illegitimate and kind of crazy. It's very, very bad, and they are very, very powerful. They're everywhere. And people don't want to talk about it because they say it's some kind of conspiracy theory. But please listen, so many talks, and Debbie is the expert on this because every time she give a talk, she carry this stuff with all the exact word that they carry, and all the video. And I think we got to stop now and then move on.
One more question.
Oh, okay, please.
Yeah, they want to
Sorry.
take away our personal property rights. That's exactly what they want to do.
Something like
It's
that.
about power and control. That's what it's about.
It's very unfortunate, and we all have to resist and talk.